everybody, and welcome back to the Formal Inquiry Podcast. I'm your host, Diego, and today's episode, I'm going to be joined with Lynn and Aiden, two of my close friends, and we're going to be talking about parasocial relationships. So, say hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
So, to start, do you guys want to give a introduction for yourselves? You don't have to plug anything, but like if you guys want to give yourself some background, we can start with Aiden.
Okay. Cool. Just put me on the spot here.
Yeah,
Awesome. Sup guys? My name is Aiden. I'm a good friend of Diego. I've known him for a good while, and I'm a streamer, kind of. And you can find me at twitch.tv/thechronicle17, where I will be streaming and funny clippy moments of my time. Yeah, just a goof, and I'm ready for the show.
He's also really hot.
That is subjective.
Lynn?
Hi, I'm Lynn. I don't have social media. Don't look me up.
Awesome. Amazing.
Lynn specifically asked not to be plugged, so
Yeah.
nothing in the description. Don't go looking. But yeah, so this topic that I wanted to get us talking about was kind of piqued my interest, mainly because I think that a lot of people in modern social media day and age struggle constantly with parasocial relationships, and I think most people don't even realize it. And so I wanted to see some maybe different perspectives on it, and also try to figure out try to tease out exactly what it is that maybe positively affects people or negatively affects people, why people kind of tend to link themselves to it. So I think to start off, I'm going to try to describe what I think a parasocial relationship is, and then we can kind of maybe give our own descriptions from there. But what I would describe a parasocial relationship to be is there is a person who is putting their life on display on the internet in some way, shape, or form. It could be in a super intimate way where they're doing like video vlogs, and they're literally showcasing what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, or it could be as simple as them just posting regularly on social media, and people who are watching them start to become attached to those people because they're seeing them every single day. They're invested in the projects they're doing, or they're invested in the activities they're engaging in, and so they start to form this kind of bond with that person or that online creator, to the point where they become emotionally affected when good things happen or when bad things happen. And so if a creator succeeds in something, they're all excited and celebrating with them. If something bad happens to that creator, then they're all sad and upset for them. And it's interesting because most of the time that parasocial relationship only happens one-sided, because usually the creator has no idea that the viewer has those kinds of emotional reactions. And so it's a one-sided relationship because only one person knows about the ins and outs of how that connection works, where the creator is just trying to give their content to a large audience, and they're not really concerned with the individual realities that exist when you're displaying something for people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Lynn, do you want to try to crack at the
Yeah, I mean,
description?
I'm bad with words, so I just Googled it.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Okay. According to findapsychologist.org, a parasocial relationship is defined as a one-sided relationship where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time to the other party, and the other person is completely unaware of the other's existence. So a lot of times, yes, with celebrities, it's very, I'm marketing myself as a product to everyone in the world, and people latch onto that and they grab onto that, and whether that's for a sense of companionship or um, being able to relate to someone, that's kind of just the case of it.
Hmm. Man, we should have you go first.
No.
That was way
Yeah,
more
how do I
concise.
follow up with that?
That was way more concise than my yab session that just happened right there.
Well,
What the heck?
it's because I googled it.
Okay, well, you're
I'm
just
not
smarter
I'm
than
not
me.
brave
Okay,
enough.
Google, what is parasocial definition?
Everyone's Alexas and phones going off right now.
Oh no! See what you did?
Hey, it's not my fault. Not my fault. There's my command.
Mhm.
Did you want to add anything, Aiden, to that, or do you think that's good?
Um, you know, I think people who are like parasocially like invested into other people's lives, which is the definition. Um, I feel like they just don't have a life. just kind of straight up, because you describe it as they're invested into so and so's life, and when they go through happy times, they're happy, and when they go through sad or hard times, they're unhappy. Um, I think it's more people get more involved when they're from a creator standpoint. People are more involved with a smaller creator who has a low community. Um, that it's easy to get invested into those people, and it's easy for the creator themselves to invest into their fan base as well.
Hmm.
So,
Mhm.
it's really hard, I would say, to understand the difference between your own personal life and investing your life into somebody else that
Mhm.
doesn't even know like who you are and everything.
Right.
Right. Well, because I met Aiden when, like, on TikTok when his fan base was relatively small, and I was considered a part of that fan base, and now we're doing a podcast together. And so it's really interesting, like, where an online social relationship through social media can sort of shift
Hmm.
kind of in and out of parasocial.
Right. Yeah, I actually really did kind of want to touch on that a little more because um me and Aiden knew each other outside of the internet. And so
Mm-hmm.
we didn't ever really have that, online connection, unlike where you guys had that, and we have that because we haven't met in person, but we have like transcended the like online, like back and forth messaging, or talking in comments or things like that. And so I guess
Mm-hmm.
from your perspective, how do you feel like you were like kind of in a parasocial relationship at any point? But between myself and Aiden, do you feel like that happened beforehand, before we kind of got into actual friendship?
Yeah, I mean, I met Aiden, or I met you through Aiden.
Right.
So I didn't really ever feel parasocial with you because I just didn't know who you were before I actually met you. Um, with Aiden there, I think I may have followed him for like a few weeks before we actually like started talking. And so for like a couple days max there, I was, following him, and not necessarily like not in like a stalkerish way. It was just someone I watched. And
Hmm.
it was for about a week there, yeah, I'd say it was not parasocial as in the I'm super invested, but parasocial as in I know who this person is and I'm following this person, but bro's got no idea who I am.
Right, right. So it was a mild and self-aware
Yeah.
parasocial.
And it's really interesting because according to Psychology Today, research finds that parasocial relationships like that can actually improve an individual's well-being by providing a sense of companionship, and someone with whom they can relate.
That's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't, I think I know for myself, I also wanted to ask you guys if you feel like you currently are indulging in parasocial relationships. Um, because I feel like it's a more common phenomenon that people just don't quite realize usually.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll speak for myself. There's a there's a British video game vlog creator person that I follow, um, who has been creating content for like a long time now. So like it was like somebody I followed when I was like a you know a teenager, and I kind of grew up alongside them. And so now they're like this guy has like a kid now, and he's like almost ready to get married, and he's buying houses and doing things like this, and he's like living like the retired YouTuber life, where like
Mm-hmm.
he's not like all about the grind game of like like, oh my gosh, the craziest thing just happened, like he really is just living his life and putting it on the internet, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
really wholesome to see because it feels like reality TV show, but it's not fake. you know
Right, right.
it's just a guy living his life, and he chooses to put things on, he chooses to cut things out that he wants to keep private, and it's like it's very wholesome to see it happening. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that he doesn't know who I am, and
Right.
I'm very aware of that. I don't like comment on every single video or try to tweet at him trying to get his attention. I just sit there, watch, like, wow, this is really wholesome, this is really nice, this is
Mm-hmm.
really comforting, comforting content to consume and to entertain myself with. And so I haven't felt like it's negatively affected me,
Mm-hmm.
per se, but I definitely do think that it has maybe given me like a, I don't know, not a false sense of companionship, but I think that it almost, in like a negative way, it makes me like, I don't know, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I think it's like I'm jealous almost, you know, of
Mm-hmm.
of this guy who's like living the dream pretty much,
Right.
and so I guess in that way it might be negative.
Well, and that's a very common thing just in social media in general. People
Right.
are only showing you what they want you to see. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're only seeing the good bits of their life and you're going, wow, like compared to your highlight reel, my actual like whole life as a whole kind of sucks
Right.
because I'm only seeing the good in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
And that can definitely be like a big factor in a lot of insecurities and a lot of discouragement.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, Aiden, what do you think? Do you feel like you have any current parasocial relationships?
I'm gonna be so transparently honest. I am not. I do not have any. I'm so personally right now. I'm very like busy
Hmm.
in my education right now.
Mm-hmm.
That I literally do not have time to invest into creators or other friends' like personal lives to like start to desire or have that parasocial um life, I guess. Um, to invest into that. I'm just primarily busy. I do want to ask you guys something because you guys kind of hit the mark a little bit. I want to ask like what like we could talk about the positive effects. Psychology says that it's great for companionship, but like what's the negative effects? Like
losing touch
how
with
bad?
reality. Just completely full stop losing touch with reality.
Okay.
Um, Also, according to Psychology Today, in rare cases, these relationships can contribute to an individual losing touch. Um,
Okay,
you
what
know,
about practically?
Practically.
Like when I
Well,
think you're too involved, like you're too parasocial, is like it would turn into like stalking.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so I wanted to ask specifically uh Aiden this because I feel like he would have at least maybe some experience with it. Um being being a content creator, do you feel like, have you ever had to experience something like that where you feel like some people in your audience were a little were trying a little too hard to like get to know you, or like really on top of things all the time and like anything like that? Has that ever happened to you before?
No, yeah. I would say that hit primarily in the DMs only when I
Mm,
wasn't streaming. Because I'm pretty communicative about my life, but not to the extent of fully being open. And like I'll slap some dabs of like, yeah, I had a busy week, blah blah blah, but I wouldn't go in depth of like, this was my work day, this was my
mm-hmm.
schooling, these are the classes I'm taking, this is the school that I go to. I don't want to leak any of that information out, but the people that are investing into my life or wanting to get to know me more, um because I'm apparently an attractive individual, um, they want to get to
And
know me
concur.
more, and they want to get to know me more, and so like
Right.
they're like, oh, like what's your favorite food? What is your favorite color? Where do you live? I'm like, uh, no, and so
Yeah.
I do experience or I did experience that a little bit here and there, but it was primarily in the DMs, not really in
Mm-hmm.
my live streaming at all.
Yeah. And I think, but that's good to kind of see like the perspective of it, because when you have an audience of people that have grown parasocial attachment to you, it does negatively affect it could possibly negatively affect the creator in that way, because like your testimony says like these people were attached, and now they think they have like the right to know you on a more intimate level, and so they're trying everything they can to get to know you more. And I think that's interesting. I mean, I've heard like from several creators like how people got like so freaked out and weird that they would like literally like find out where they lived and just knock on their front door
Mm-hmm.
just to like say hi, have a conversation, like ask for a photo or something like that. Like it's weird, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think part of like I guess like the negative effects of parasocial relationships is like the like you said like the or like Lynn said, the losing touch with reality to the point where you believe in your heart that you are, intimately attached to this person. And so you think that you have the reputation to uphold with this person, that you can just, show up at their doorstep and say hi to them, that you can just, send them a DM, asking how they're doing. Like, when that's just not true, because this person doesn't know who you are.
Right. And I think a lot of it too is very much the idea that I know this person, and it's almost like self-centered in the sense that I know this person really well, and so of course they want to meet me, of course they want to know me, of course they want to like talk to me and have a conversation. um and it's because of how much of people's lives are being put online nowadays. I feel like it's very common for people to know in their head that I know this person really well, but not actually stop and think this person has no idea who I am.
Right.
Like I'm a stalker to this person.
Yeah.
I have a question
Mm.
about like taking it too far to in parasocialness. Um, do you think that, and I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but do you think that women have a more harder time with like men stalking women, or do you think it's like some not like not entirely equal, but the degree is equal to both men and women?
Well, I think I would argue that um, the severity is different for women, because I mean I think it would be kind of ridiculous to say that like women get more interaction. Um, I think that's just not true, because I think depending on the popularity of the creator, you're going to have a certain amount of fan interaction, and so as far as like the over bounds of parasocial, um, I think that it just depends on the content of the creator mostly, because whether it's a guy or a girl, doesn't change how intimate their content is. And so I think that regardless of the gender, there's going to be a certain amount of, um, I guess, over connecting that happens dependent on the content they're creating. And so I wouldn't say that it's worse either way. I just think that there's a different severity level just because of the normal content people are going to be making. And I think the only other thing that I could say on it is that it is more common for women to be sexualized than it is for men to be sexualized. And so I think if we're talking about from like a safety standpoint or like a creepy standpoint, then I would probably say yes, it is harder for women because they're just more commonly sexualized than men are. But that's not to say
Mhm.
that it doesn't happen both ways.
Because there is definitely some level of objectification that goes into that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it makes sense that a gender demographic more commonly objectified would be more, I guess, likely.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but at the same time, you have the whole reputation of fangirls,
Yeah.
and it's parasocial relationships for women are actually, I feel like, more normalized, and that's kind of what makes them a little bit more scary. Um, because it's like, oh, you're just a fangirl, and not like, oh, this actually is getting to a degree where it could be dangerous for the individual that you're following.
Right. I mean,
So, you
ugh.
want to go?
I was gonna add something.
Okay, go. Mine goes a completely different way.
I think the other thing I was gonna say, the only thing I was gonna say was that, I think it, like I said before, it does go both ways. Um, but I just wanted to kind of re-emphasize the point that it really does matter what kind of content you're making, because it's all about the demographic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think me and Aiden can both attest to just the realities that you know your creators on most platforms, you can see the demographic, right? They give you statistics, right? And when your common audience retention is mostly women and you're a dude, it's kind of obvious why they're there, right? And so, and then for other content creators, it's totally different, right? You could be a girl that has a mostly woman demographic because your content is made for women.
Mm-hmm.
That's just normal, right? And then vice versa, you could be a guy that just makes content that for the main demographic of men. It doesn't always have to be that you're using your attractiveness to pull in this demographic of people that are going to be over obsessed with you. It doesn't always have to be that way. But I also would argue that if if that's what you're doing, is if what you are doing is intentionally um, pulling on people be to pull on that parasocial relationship by using your good looks, by trying to get people involved and engaged with you, then you're almost asking for it to be dangerous.
TikTok BOVs come to mind.
I mean that's what I'm saying is like like the TikTok POV is like the super intimate vlogs. You know, I mean, shoot, OnlyFans and sex work comes to my mind. Just like you're inviting
Mm-hmm.
it. Like if your content is specifically pulling on the heartstrings of your audience, of your fans, then you should expect them to become attached. Like that's just what's going to happen. That's the entertainment value that you're providing to them.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. I do feel like there is truth to what you're saying for sure. I do feel like um in any situation where you're like, well, they're asking for it, I feel like there's always there's still the responsibility of the consumer, right?
Sure.
So like yeah, it's catering towards a demographic that may tend to be more parasocially involved and may tend to be more likely to take it too far. Um, but it's definitely, there's a lot of, like, a majority of, I would say, the blame is the consumers and the
Mm-hmm.
responsibility that they have to, you know, keep their, not be a creep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that the creators are basically asking for weirdos to show up on their doorstep,
Right,
but
right,
I guess it's the same thing as saying, you're not gonna hold a wad of cash out when you're going down a dark alleyway.
right,
It's more about being smart, and so if it's not that you're asking people to come and jump you and take your money, it's that if you have that much money, you're gonna hide it. Like,
mm-hmm.
it's just about being smart. It's more about protecting yourself and less about enticing people to hurt you.
Mm.
That's all I was gonna say.
Right. Yeah, no.
So then like you say people like invest into these people because they relate. Like what are those like characteristics, or like can you like describe maybe like a couple of them?
Characteristics for.
Like as a fan investing into a creator,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I relate to them so much." Like can you like list maybe a couple of the possible characteristics that
Like,
a
characteristics that people
fan
might relate
a
to.
fa- yeah, a fan might feel that relates to the creator that makes them more parasocially involved.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it really just, a lot of it is the openness of the creator. So it's like,
Mhm.
um, maybe, oh, this person's really clumsy. I'm really clumsy too. Like, we relate over that. Or, this person has been very open about their struggle with mental health or maybe
Mhm.
an ED, like whatever it is. And I relate to them on that level. Um, and just like, it's all about, it's, it's what they share, you know,
Yeah.
obviously it gets too much when they are trying to find things that that person is not comfortable sharing. But I think a connection based off of, or not a connection, but a relation, like I relate to this person, not so much a relationship,
Right.
is very. It's kind of to be expected. You're putting content out there. You want to be relatable. You want to be marketable. Um,
Yeah.
and so that sort of connection is almost what you're looking for. Um, because in order to sell your content,
Yeah. Because the
especially
goal.
with like lifestyle and vloggers and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. The goal is to be relatable, right? Relatable and entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I think another aspect of it is it's also like the nature of the content you're providing, because all forms of entertainment have a certain value proposition, right? For some people, like a high value proposition for them is, I really want to see people's heads get blown off,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they really love to see action sequences. They want to play video games that are about war times. They want to they want to see the Michael Bay explosions, and they want to see Predator kill people, right? That's their value proposition. Other
Mm-hmm.
people are like, no, I want a good story. Like, I want to see people freak out. I want to see people cry, sob. I want to see them happy. I want to see them do this. And so you get basically every single TLC show. You get the vlogging channels. You get your like your period pieces. Things that are high in drama, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the different value propositions elicit different emotional reactions. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think for an average creator, your value proposition is usually based on an entertainment level. And so what you provide, and that um that value proposition is going to change depending on the content that you're providing to them. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're for example, right, if you're a creator that is just kind of playing video games, having fun, having a couple funny clip moments, things like that. That's kind of a low value proposition, right? It's entertaining and it helps people get through their day. It might, you might be really good at the game. They enjoy that, but it's kind of a low value proposition, right? There's not a whole lot of value there. Some people are going to enjoy it. Some people are going to eat it up. There's a big market for it, but it's a low value, right? But there's other creators out there that are literally like family life content vloggers, right? And they're recording their kids, doing these performances, going to these vacations, doing all this stuff. And that's a high value proposition because they're providing you a window into their life, seeing their kids
Mhm.
grow up, watching their parenting styles, things like that. And they're talking about like brands that they're using with their kids and things like that. So it's a different, you kind of see how the content almost dictates um the audience and also the value that you're providing. And so I think that is a big play into it. And so I would say that um a a easy creator to be parasocial with would be a creator that provides content that has a high value proposition,
Mhm.
rather than a content creator that is just merely for entertainment.
Right. And I do feel like entertainment, like just purely entertainment creators, do oftentimes get a lot of pressure to share more and more about themselves
Mm-hmm.
to make their content a higher value and more likely for parasocial relationships,
Yeah.
um, because that is what sells.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So
Absolutely.
then like, is it the creator's fault for being open about their life, like fully, kind of not, but like letting their community into their life like fully, like what goes on in the background and what they're thinking and going through? Is that like the creator's fault for opening up that opportunity for their fan base?
I would say yes. Um, I mean, I would advise, even if you are a creator that is more intimate with their audience, that there still are some things you should save for your personal life. Um, but I also understand that there is that, again, that high value proposition that you want to share more with your audience. But I would still say that if you're oversharing, that is kind of a you problem. Um, be,
I
because
I wouldn't say it was necessary. Sorry, I wouldn't say it was necessarily the creator's fault, but it is dumb
I mean, uh, I feel that
to share.
I feel like we kind of said this before, but
Mhm.
I still think that there is a, just being smart and being wise with what you share on the internet has always been a common practice. I mean,
Mhm.
when we first got the internet, there was a whole bunch of propaganda posters and people being so like clear, like being safe online and not sharing your information and things like that. And it's just because it's just being smart, and,
Mhm.
and I think that it wouldn't make sense in any other timeline. Imagine the internet didn't wasn't a thing, right? Would you want the intimacies of your personal life posted on a billboard somewhere? You know, like
Right.
it just doesn't make sense, logically for you to do that, because there are things that not everybody needs to know. And there are things
Yeah.
that are meant to keep you're meant to keep private. There are things that should only be known by your closest friends and family. And I think that is on the responsibility of the creator to not share those things. um, and it's just about sharing what you're comfortable sharing, and that is going to be different for everybody. And I think that difference of how much you should share and how little you should share, or how much you should share, really stems from what are you what are you as the creator willing to share with other people, and willing other people to become attached to. How much of
Mhm.
yourself are you willing to put on display, basically, because that's what you're doing as a creator. You're putting yourself on display. And so how much of you are you willing to put out there for everyone to see, for everyone to judge, for everyone to relate to, or to whatever it is, right? How much of that are you actually wanting to share with people? And so I would argue that is on the creator, because the audience, they're just reacting to what you're sharing with them. And that doesn't mean that they're allowed to be creeps and weirdos and create an unsafe environment, but that is on the responsibility as you as the creator to have your boundaries and not share what should not be shared.
Mm. No, I can see that. I definitely understand like that side of things. I think it honestly goes both ways pretty equally. Um, because at the end of the day, we're all looking at our phones. We don't
Yeah.
like there's still that disconnect regardless of whether you're a creator or a consumer. There you don't really think about your content going out to all these people. Artists or creators that blew up and went viral. Um, they're always like, wow, I just like the numbers that I'm seeing now are like mind boggling. I can't believe it. And it's always you don't really think about the fact that anyone can look at everything that you put online.
Yeah.
Um, as a creator, like that's not something people tend to really focus on and think about. And as a consumer as well, you don't really tend to realize that, I mean, obviously this doesn't go for everyone, but it's difficult more so when it's through a phone screen to realize that you're actually watching real people and you can interact with them and you can consume their content and learn about an actual person because of just the disconnect with the phone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's pretty easy for both parties to kind of lose sight of what's actually happening.
Is there like a difference between, because we're talking about a lot about like content creators, so that's like what YouTube and Twitch or whatever streaming platform that you use, right? Is there a difference between that and like celebrities like actors or basketball players or like anything? Is there like a difference between the two, or are they pretty common in, do they have like commonalities?
Um, I think I would say they're fundamentally no. I think the difference between like a I guess like a Hollywood or a high rank celebrity, opposed to like your common everyday influencer. Um, I think the only difference is just accessibility, because
Mm-hmm.
for high ranking celebrities, they know how to deal with people that are weird. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
they're PR trained, they have security detail. If somebody shows up on their doorstep, they're going to get a restraining order. Like you know
Yeah.
it's also more common for celebrities, I think, as well. And so I think that they're just a little bit more numb to it. But I also think that for your average, viewer, um, if you're looking at who can I connect with on a more realistic basis, I'm not going to get the attention of Kanye West.
Right.
That's not going to happen, right? But I might get the attention of this small cloud rapper because he has more time on his hands and has less fans. So like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more just the reason why we view it more in the content creator space is because it's just more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right because actors and or like movie star people, they like, wait, that's the same. What?
That is just
um Actors and like
Yeah.
basketball players, we only see them, like basketball people, we see them seasonal, and that's the only time we see them. Actors and are like only shown in movies when they get casted. Content
Mm-hmm.
creators, we see them on a very daily basis
right.
or a very consistent schedule, like, so I would say they are very different. And I would say you're also right that actors or athletes have a lot of PR training of how to deal with these kind of fans, whereas your average schmo might not know how to react, not how to engage, and how to
Mm-hmm.
differentiate between professionalism and personal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there, because we're talking a lot about negative on the celebrity side of it, I guess. Is there anything for the consumer? I mean, we kind of touched base on it a little bit, but is there anything on the consumer side of it that's like negative in a sense, or they're going like way too far?
What do you think, Aiden?
I think it's pretty stupid. Like the little kids on like, oh gosh, it's not called Twitter anymore. It's called X now. Gosh.
X.
They're just like, oh, notice me, please, 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 and it kind of, as a creator myself, I'm pretty annoyed. I mean, I still get DMs like to this day about like 3 different people that are like, hey, like notice me, and I'm just like, go away. Um, I think it's honestly the amount of like respect as a
Mhm.
consumer can have for the creator, the content creator, or like the athlete, like the amount of respect of, this guy's really popular, or like this guy is in this professional field, like to respect like their personal life, and like admire their professional life, but also respect their personal life. And I feel like for certain people that's very hard to do, because like I said at the beginning, like they don't have a life, and so they are investing their whole life into these people rather than having consideration or having just like respect for like their professional business and their professional skills, and then also respecting the fact that, hey, this person's got a family. Like, be
Mhm.
respectful for like them. Like, sometimes I would see like videos of like people like, oh my gosh, this guy is like eating lunch here. um I'm gonna go say hi, and then the creators are just like, guys, please don't do that to me. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm eating.
Mm-hmm.
Please do not do
Right.
that to me.
Yeah.
Or
Like,
like people who will find like get into hotel bookings and figure out
exactly.
where they're
Yeah.
staying.
I think like one of the coolest things I've seen a content creator do is PewDiePie did this actually, um, where I think it was a couple years ago. He basically like instituted that he doesn't want fans to come up to him and ask for pictures anymore. Like he just said, I'm not doing it.
Mm.
Um, and he explained to them that it felt like he felt like he was like at a petting zoo and he was the animal. Like
Mhm.
people didn't want to know him or meet him. They just wanted a picture of him to say, "Hey, I met PewDiePie." You know,
Right.
and so he didn't like the feeling. You know, he's already an introverted person, so he didn't like the feeling of being in public and getting noticed. Um, and so he just said straight up, like, just don't, like, you can come up to me and say hi, I'll shake your hand, but don't ask for a picture because I'm not gonna give you one. And I think
Mhm.
that's like a crazy PR move, first of all, because having pictures with your fans is great for publicity. Um,
Right.
so it's a
Right.
bad PR move. But I think as far as like, personal boundary, I think that's a perfect example of a creator saying, "Hey guys, we're not doing this anymore because I'm not comfortable doing it."
Right.
And so I think, just like from the, you know, what am I saying? as like a viewer, someone who's consuming the content, it's kind of like a gut punch because like I was saying before, as you're in a parasocial relationship, you feel like you are like you have a reputation with this person, right? You
Mhm.
believe that you know this person, and that you have the credibility to just go up to them and say, "Hey, how are you doing? How's this going? How this and that." And like it's a shock to the creator because they don't they because of the disconnect of the phone, right? The disconnect of being online, they don't quite have the connection of, why does this person know so much about me? Why, like,
Mhm.
why do you feel like you just like know me enough to be like, "Hey, how's it going?" when I don't know who you
Right.
are? Like it's an odd phenomenon. But I think what Lynn was saying about that disconnect is that that really is what kind of
Mm-hmm.
creates the separation. But then when you're trying to bridge that separation, and you're meeting that creator, or you're trying to connect with them on a more intimate level, I guess the parasocial person doesn't know how to jump that that gap, because
Right.
they're so involved in this person's life, but it's just not reciprocated.
Right. And that is a really awkward place to be too, where it's like I know everything about this person and he has no idea I exist, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, like the word that comes to mind is commodified, right? So
Mm,
you're, to some people you are going to be viewed as a commodity as opposed to a person.
right. And
So,
that
going back to
sucks.
the pictures with PewDiePie thing, sorry. To the pictures with PewDiePie thing, it's I want to have a picture as a commodity, as a memento, as a wow, you know, and not necessarily as there is a part of it where, oh cool, I got to meet my favorite creator, but there's also a, I have to have Pixar didn't happen,
Right. Yeah, and I think it's I would argue it's an unhealthy practice,
Mm-hmm.
simply because of
Well, it
the
definitely is.
I mean, well, I mean, because we were kind of going back and forth of, like, like, yeah, like it has a value of providing
Mm-hmm.
like, comfort, but I think that it's more detrimental, because if you are somebody who is, like you were saying, creating, making this, online presence, this person that you're looking up to, and you're painting them out to be a commodity, you're painting them out to be a product, then we have lost the humanity of social relationships.
Right.
You have completely you've taken out the human connection part of human connection,
Right.
because
Well,
you're
and
just
I
viewing this person as a product.
yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it is with how an individual approaches it, um, and a lot of times it is very objectifying, very commodifying. Um, I think there are healthy ways to go about it, but I think a majority of what we've been talking about has been the sort of negative side of it, and that's fine. That's way more interesting, you know.
Okay, so what do you guys think is the proper way to go about having a parasocial relationship? Because I feel like a lot of people have them. I know I have them, but like, what do you think is the best way to kind of go about them? Do you feel like do you feel like it's something that needs, like, you need to just stop doing entirely, or do you feel like you just need to manage them?
Lynn, do you want to go first?
I mean, could you repeat the question? That's really interesting.
um for imagine for a second, because none of them are in the room right now, right? Imagine for a second
What?
somebody is dealing with imagine for a second that somebody um has a parasocial relationship. What would you tell that person? And yeah, would you tell them to stop doing it, or would you try to help them manage it?
I mean, like we've touched on, like on some level, content creators depend on like a certain amount of parasocial,
Yeah.
just for the relatability and for, getting people to buy their merch and watch
Right.
the ads on their channel and whatnot. Um, and so I wouldn't necessarily say it's something I would tell someone to stop completely. I do think there's a level of delusion that comes into play very often, and I think it's just knowing your own limits. So if you have a more obsessive personality, that's cool, but watch yourself. um because I know, especially for younger people, like
Yeah.
I had a K-pop phase.
Had.
You know, I did. I had a K-pop phase. I still enjoy it, but it's a lot more casual. It's a lot more dialed back. I was like obsessed,
Hmm.
and it was definitely, it was to a point where it was obnoxious. I never like reached out to any artist. I never tried to get noticed or anything, mainly because they were in Korea.
Mm, mm,
um, but it was definitely a level of obnoxious that was like I was a pain to talk to about anything because I'd always bring it back to an obsession that I had.
mm,
And I think, you know, because I was so young and I didn't really have access to like that much social media and technology growing up. I it stayed relatively harmless. It stayed relatively concealed, and it didn't really affect anyone. And because I was so young, it was something I eventually, matured out of and grew up from. Um, but I have no doubt in my mind that there are people who still have that tendency, and it's something that definitely needs to be, um, I wouldn't say monitored because they're not a patient, but like they're not an animal either. Um, but it's definitely something that needs to sort of be held accountable, I guess.
mm.
And so in the sense of, even just having a good friend being like, hey, this is kind of becoming too much. I think you need to dial it back a little bit. Um, but I think to some extent it's not necessarily a bad thing to be a fan of people and to be a fan, like, be happy when they're succeeding in life and even, mourn for them when like maybe a loved one passes or whatever. Um, I think that's where the sort of term community is more so used than parasocial. I feel like while the definition of parasocial is like the relationship in general between a content creator and the fan base, I think when we say parasocial, we majority of the time mean when it is to an extreme. Um, and so when you say parasocial, it's very hard for me to understand. Like if you are talking about just enjoying someone's content and relating to someone and maybe buying their merch and investing in them in a completely safe and healthy way, rather than obsessing over them and taking it too far.
Um, I guess I would say that I mean my argument would be that um having a parasocial relationship is when you cross the boundary of yeah, I follow this creator and to yeah, I really like this creator. Like once you kind of get past like the yeah, I know who that person is and kind of go into like yeah, I watch
Mm-hmm.
their stuff a lot, I'm invested in them. So that weird like describing like yeah, you're like a supporter, like when you would call yourself a fan of a creator that you exclusively see online,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know you exist. That's parasocial at that point. um
Gotcha.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's unhealthy at that point, but it is definitely parasocial.
Right, right.
um yeah. Aiden, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually kind of disagree with you, DAO. I don't think they're as of yet crossing the line. Parasocial can be taken in a positive note, of course. Psychology facts. Thanks, Lynn. Um,
You're
however,
welcome.
I don't think it's like negative. Like I think being parasocial to your favorite creators, especially like the small creators, like those really matter. And like Lynn said, like
Hmm.
buy their merch. Like that's in a sense supporting them and like
Mm-hmm.
them feeling validated that you're inquiring their merch brings a sense of joy to them that wants them to pursue that. And so I would disagree that putting them in that category of being parasocial is being like crossing the line. I don't think they have yet crossed that threshold. I would side with more so just managing, um, because I'm on the perspective of the content creators. That if you were to manage that to really make them step back and kind of see like the stupidity of them of like how they're acting to gain the creator's attention, and not like fully understanding like, oh snap, they also have like their own personal life, and I'm kind of being a nuisance if I keep bothering them. And so maybe I shouldn't like be comment or blah, blah, DMing them so much,
You're doing
DMing
great.
them so much for their attention so that I can get satisfaction from them. I would say that that's what I would do, is just kind of walk through and just manage like how they can still be involved in their favorite creator's life. However, understand like boundaries that they give. And I would kind of do the same for the
Mm-hmm.
content creators. Really list out everything of like, okay, this is information that is like shareable. That's totally fine. Like, I think an example for me is like, oh yeah, I go to school, like, and that's it. I don't really leak out
Mm-hmm.
major unless I really want to. I don't leak out what school I go to. I don't leak out what city I live in, so they can track down like the colleges that I could potentially be at. Just
Mm-hmm.
like dial that, like list everything out for them, the content creators, to still like keep their fan base involved into the lives, but to like an extent. So
Mhm.
that's my
Mm-hmm.
take.
Yeah, I think my only rebuttal. I think it's just a matter of defining what it is, because I don't disagree
Yeah.
with you. I don't disagree with you. I just think that I define the actual parasocial relationship differently, because I don't view parasocial as negative. I just view
Right.
it as it is, and I think parasocial as it is, it's when you become invested in the content that you're consuming. And I think that the examples that I gave, like when you start, watching every video, when you start buying merch, when you start supporting them in that kind of way, you've become parasocial. I'm not saying that's negative. I think that you can take parasocial into a negative light, where you can say, where you start
Mm-hmm.
trying to stalk them, trying to figure out where they're at. You're DMing them all the time, trying to be involved in their life, right? Trying to insert yourself into what they're doing. I think that's when you take it into
Right.
a negative way. So I don't think necessarily parasocial relationships are bad or negative. I just think
Mm-hmm.
that once you kind of cross the threshold of, I'm really invested in this creator, you have now invested yourself into them, and at that point you have become parasocial. It just depends, like, I guess it just depends what you do after that.
Sure. Yeah,
Like, are you
definitely.
are you just gonna
Definitely.
Right.
continue to be the supportive, good fan that kind of hangs out there, says, "Hey, you're doing great. Oh man, that sucked," and just kind of be there? Or are you gonna take that and, start DMing them, start, Googling them, doing all the, start being weird, basically. So I guess it's not,
Mm-hmm.
being parasocial isn't the problem. I would argue it's what you do after you've crossed that threshold. Are you gonna be creepy, or are you just gonna be cool about it?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of how I'm thinking about it as well.
yeah. So I wouldn't say it's bad. I know personally for myself, there's a smaller creator, um, that makes music and does motorcycle content, and I followed them for a long time. I listen to all their music. I, interact with them on Instagram whenever they, set up polls, or, ask questions and things like that. Um, I had an opportunity to talk with them on a live stream once before. And so it's, but I don't insert myself into their life, right? I'm not, constantly checking up on them. I'm not saying, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm not, trying, like, get their, get in like their Discord or whatever. Like, I don't do that. I just say, "Hey, your music's great. Your content's great. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm gonna keep watching," So, but I would argue that's parasocial, right? I'm invested in this person's life, even though they're not invested in my life.
Yeah. And like psychologically and scientifically, that was the definition I found as well.
Boom, scientific. Can't argue with me. Science.
It's because parasocial is usually talked about when it's the negative side of things, and so that's the association we have with it. And so there's parasocial and there's parasocial.
Yeah, I feel like we need like a new term, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need like a negative
stalkers,
term, or we need a.
Honestly, we've had the term the whole time.
Yeah, I feel like we need to make like a new term that means parasocial, but is viewed in a positive light. You know, because parasocial is already negative. It's going to be negative, right? So I feel like we need to think of like. Okay, dude.
Hera invested.
Invested, yeah.
Socially
invested.
Oh, okay, that works too.
Socially invested.
One way socially involved.
Yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful, though.
Man, maybe that's why they said parasocial.
Yes.
I.
Ugh. In my notes, I wrote down PSR. I had to abbreviate it.
Nice.
I didn't feel like reading it the entire time.
See, I heard PSR and my brain wanted to pronounce it, and then I thought that it sounded weird.
You thought Pasar?
I did.
Pasar.
Like, yeah, let's actually not say that.
It's not what we wanted to do here.
That's not what this episode's about.
That's not what we're here to do, guys.
Guys, get your PSR on. That is so. It sounds so wrong.
It does. It sounds. It don't. You know, I wasn't thinking about it when I wrote it down, but now that I'm looking at it, it definitely looks like some kind of like medical operation or.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah.
I've been diagnosed with PSR.
Oh no! Is it terminal?
Don't worry, it's not contagious. Well,
it might be contagious, actually.
It might be contagious, actually. Have you ever heard of BTS?
I wanted to ask. Which groups do you feel like you were really involved with?
It was BTS for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
100%. It was like right when they were coming up with the
You got it.
it was right after the release of DNA.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure somebody listening knows what that is. Whoa, Aiden, you just outed yourself.
What? I mean,
you
a
just
friend
outed
of mine
yourself
told me about
on
this.
live. That's crazy. So okay, I think Aiden's just trying really hard to not sound weird and creepy, but I know he's had parasocial relationships before. Like I know you've been trying to be the villain this whole time. Like it's stupid. Those people are stupid.
These guys are stupid in the streets. What can I say?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm
come
from
on,
New
man.
York.
Give me an example. Come on, we all share.
Give me what?
Yeah. Give me an example of a creator that you feel like you've been parasocial with.
Gosh, can I pull up the receipts?
Dude, how many
There's
are
like
there?
Okay, I give this old one. There was this it's so bad. There was this guy, he was gay, and I was obviously not gay.
Whoa.
He kept on DMing me and be like, hey, like, what you doing? And I'm just like, I'm in class. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, but I kept like ignoring him. He's just like, hey, like, and I'm just like, ew, this is gross. Get away from me. Like, it's really bad. It's really bad.
Okay, that's still someone being parasocial with you.
Yeah, cause I think I can't remember. I'd have to pull up the receipts. They wanted to like get to know me more. I think that's what they said, like in writing. They want to get to know me more. And I think they were looking for a dating partner, and I was just not I was not on the market for them. I'm still not on the market. If any of you think I'm on the market, I'm not. I am.
Okay. Calm down.
Aiden didn't
nobody
understand the
asked.
assignment.
Yeah, he didn't understand the assignment. But I'm telling. Okay, Aiden,
Okay.
listen. I asked you, have
Oh,
you
me?
ever been involved in
Oh, I thought you were
Yes.
talking
That was the
about like
question.
me as a
Uh,
victim.
no, you don't always have to
Okay,
be the
I
victim,
didn't know.
Aiden.
Cut that out, editor. Cut that out, editor.
I'm keeping
Um,
it in. I'm the editor.
have I ever parasocialized with anybody? Um,
That's also staying
no, I really haven't.
in. I
I,
disagree.
you
I
can
disagree
disagree as much
completely.
as you want, but this is,
Okay, so okay, I'll ask a follow up question on that.
okay.
Um, so do we think um okay, so for me, I've witnessed this phenomenon in several different instances. It has happened in like fandoms. So like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is an example. K-pop is an example. Where I want to say particularly women, but that seems sexist. But I also already just said it anyways. So anyways, where where people, I'll say, where people tend to, um, I don't want to use the word fantasize because I think it has a
No,
wrong
I think you're
connotation.
correct in the word.
But you know, like the whole like claiming that this one is
Yeah,
mine.
no,
You know,
that's
like
fantasizing.
you
Mhm.
know like okay, yeah, so people fantasize over characters, over celebrities, and they claim them as like their token or whatever. um would we put that in the same category as parasocial?
Oh,
Yeah,
100%.
I mean
Definitely a more
the
extreme,
definition is
the
literally
unhealthy
like
kind.
invested into someone else's life, like, and or like
Mm,
Mhm.
characters, like doesn't have to be a specific person, like
yeah.
Doesn't even have to be a real person.
exactly.
Yeah, animated, that's totally a thing.
Hmm. And I think the danger with fictional characters specifically
Oh
is
man.
less so obviously about the person you're objectifying, because if it is a fictional character, yes, they are objects. If you're reading a book and you have a
Whoa,
favorite
we can
character
do
in a
that.
book, like that's not real.
We can
That's
do
not
that.
real.
Right.
But I think the danger with that is when you talk about like toxic fan bases, you know, and it puts a bad taste in the mouth of, oh well, anyone that wants to get into
Oh man.
the content that you're consuming, um and also people who are already there. There are a lot of people who have like quote unquote left fandoms because it was just a toxic place. And I think it's very common, like for parasocial relationships to get to a point with like that, even though it's not necessarily dangerous for the character that isn't real. It's just not fun for anyone else that has to deal with it.
Yeah.
And going back to my horrible like 13-year-old self, BTS obsessed, I
Mm.
and I still love them. I still listen to their music, but I've dialed it way back. Um, but that, I said I was obnoxious. I was like every single thing. I was like BTS, BTS, BTS. I was obsessed, and that was, it was. I am grateful that it was kept away from the actual people, and that it was very separate. And I didn't take that to the artists themselves, mainly because they are higher profile, and that's something we touched on as well. um and I was a child, I couldn't. uh, but it was very much like the people around me were very annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, the whole like parasocializing. I think, yeah, focusing on the more like high profile or even like the fictitious side of things is is interesting because I think like Lynn was saying, the oh man, the like the way that you can justify it to yourself when it's a fake character, because like you're like,
Mhm.
I'm not hurting anybody, like no one's getting negatively affected by this. Just let me have this, right? And that normally would be fine if it wasn't a detriment to you, because I think when it comes to the parasocializing with fictitious characters, um, it's just all about the losing grasp of reality.
Mhm.
And I think that usually there'd be nothing wrong with liking a fictional character. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. I mean, like, dude, my Discord profile is Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
Your fictional characters can be a big deal to people, right? And they can make an impact. I'm not negating
Mhm.
that, but once you start, I think with parasocial having a parasocial relationship with a character that doesn't even exist, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the boat with Aiden on that one. Like, you're just stupid. Like,
Mhm.
like,
Like you see this merch and everything, and it's like, oh, this character is my boyfriend or whatever.
yeah, like what?
Mhm.
Like
Like the
even
single taken mentally dating so and so.
yeah, it's so dumb.
Mhm.
Like the character literally doesn't exist. They would never choose you because you don't exist and they don't exist. That's just like you have literally screwed yourself because they will never know you and you will never know them. Congratulations, you played yourself. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, that one I have no sympathy for. However, I'm not letting Aiden get away with this one. Um,
What?
I'm telling you, you have parasocial relationships.
I probably did, but not now.
Lynn, can you confirm or deny that he did not post a random celebrity on his main Instagram?
Yeah, but that's
I'm
that's
not on
that's like
Instagram like that,
that's
but
like
I do
different.
think I actually
That's like
saw that.
different.
How is that different? How
That's
is
like
that
different.
different? You see this? How is that different, Aiden? Please explain
I'm
to me how
not.
that's
I'm
different.
not. Okay. Okay, for the listeners, the beautiful listeners that are listening right now, I I posted two pictures of two different idols. Um, but everyone
Mm-hmm.
thinks they're the same one, but they're not. One was
It's like he's digging his own grave right now.
one was Kim Chaewon from the Seraphim, and the other one is Leah from ITZY. And if you asked me about their lives, I cannot give you an answer. I am not that stalker. Because I feel like Lynn can probably back me up here, help me. I feel like Koreans have it the worst when it comes to parasocialness. Especially as like a K-pop idol, because you got fans that like,
I've definitely heard some crazy
yeah, like they
stories.
literally like track you down, find your favorite restaurants, like literally like take
Hmm.
stalker photos of you and everything, and it's just overall like creepy.
There's a huge amount of fetishization as
Exactly,
well.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Exactly.
And so like my parasocialness in these two celebrities, I would say, are non-existent because I don't invest my time and energy into them. I am busy with my own studies and everything. And so I rest my case.
I think you're just comparing yourself to the worst. That doesn't mean that you're not
No,
parasocial.
no. I mean, like, even a normal person would, like, be, like, fantasizing about them.
I'm a normal person. I don't even know who those
Yeah,
people are.
but okay, but we're not on the same fandom. We're not on the same like area. Like, okay, like every guy fantasizes about Ryan Reynolds. This is a fact.
Okay.
Wouldn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
parasocial relationship
Exactly.
right there.
There
That's
you go.
parasocial
There you go.
relationship.
I'm invested in Ryan Reynolds' life and his three daughters, sure, and his wife.
Yeah. I didn't even know he had $3. I thought he had one.
No, he has two, and I think the third one is also a daughter.
Boom, parasocial
There you
relationship.
go. Boom.
Got him.
Whatever.
Got him.
But do you see what I'm saying? Is that the being parasocial is not about the severity of your reaction. It's about how how invested you
It's about
are.
the fact that you
It's about the passion.
know enough to have a
Yeah,
reaction.
it's about the passion that you have for it, you know? And I'm telling you, Aiden,
Being a fan of something
makes you
can
parasocial.
be considered a parasocial relationship. Because even at a small extent, you're still investing into people. Whether it's buying their merch, buying tickets to the concert, like whatever it is.
It's just what it is. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not judging you for being parasocial. I think
we just talked about my crazy, insane BTS phase. So
yeah, my argument. What I'm saying is my argument is that I think everybody does it.
Sure.
I just don't think everybody acknowledges it, and I just don't think that everybody acts negatively on that parasocialness.
I can agree to that to an extent. Yeah.
That's at least my stance. That majority of people, if we all got parasocial relationships, whether we like it or not, and some of us are just better at handling it than others. I honestly think it's almost like a requirement of our day and age. I mean, how are you meant to, exist online and not form parasocial relationships?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Even offline, how are you gonna, be a reader? How are you gonna enjoy movies and not, it's so encouraged everywhere you look. And it's normalized, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it goes too far.
And it goes too far.
When it goes too far, it goes too far.
And people start doing some weird stuff.
Yeah. That's the main takeaway. It goes too far, it goes too far.
Yeah. Main takeaway, don't be weird, guys.
Yeah.
don't
be
be
creepy.
Weird. You're allowed to feel connected to people that you don't know. You're not allowed to think that you deserve some kind of attention from that person.
Yeah.
Because that's weird. Don't be weird.
That's weird. They don't know you.
They don't know you.
That's the definition of parasocial. They don't know you.
You might think you know them, but you know them how they want you to know them.
Extremely filtered.
That was a bar.
It's like our food. It's so processed.
Okay. That's not what we're here to talk about. Well, I think that's actually a good place for us to stop.
We have been going for a minute.
Dude, a full minute.
A whole minute.
So we're gonna cut off the podcast there. If you guys enjoy the podcast, please be sure to rate the podcast, follow it. We are on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon, also on YouTube. If you guys want to follow us on all platforms, follow the Instagram at the Formal Inquiry Podcast. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Welcome to the Formal Inquiry Podcast. I'm Lynn, and today I'm joined by the host Diego Salazar, and I am joined by Aiden from the Karate. I can't do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show, The Formal Inquiry. Today, I am not your host. I am a guest. I'm Aiden. This is with the host Diego and also another guest, Lynn.
What's up?
Say hi, guys.
Hey.
What's up?
This is such a bad idea.